hearts for being part of this today. So we're going to share now. We're going to start with Doug's son, Brian, is going to start us off.
Well, welcome everyone. Steve, Sandy, and I are overjoyed that you can all come and celebrate the life of our father, Jarrett. We have a few speakers to help share the memories of Dad's long and wonderful life. Steve, listening stories, adventures of Dad's. His two granddaughters, Caitlin and Sam, are going to share their special memories. And then he's outlasted most of his family friends from his generation. But we're lucky to have his childhood friend Bill Dedrick and his closest cousin Bill Sloan, plus his ski buddy and Beaver Valley neighbor Bob Smart to give their perspectives on their long-lasting relationships. So my dad grew up in third of 4 children at Nora. After high school, he continued his studies through Queen's University, became a chartered accountant. And while working at his first CA firm, he met a beautiful Irish redhead, Eileen Porter, and here we are today. So Dad worked hard all week, leaving early in the morning and getting home late at night. We rarely saw him during the week. As kids, we really didn't know what a chartered accountant did, but he worked hard, and on top of that, he had time to volunteer for Rotary, treasurer for the Kettles Association, the church, Muscatassa Tennis Club, Beaver Valley Ski Club, and even the Ontario Ski Resort Association he got involved in. And you think after all that, he'd need a rest, but he was ready to go there every weekend. As soon as Friday came, we were heading out north somewhere for some activity. So his love of the outdoors was passed on to him and his siblings through scouting and cottaging when they were young in Muskoka. And our entire extended family have been fortunate to enjoy the cottaging. He canoed, water skied, golfed, and played tennis, but his favorite sport was sailing, and he excelled at it. He dominated the Kettles Sailing Club races with his Alpro sailboat, and was the top sailor even in the Muskoka district. A friend of ours, Carol and Rand, wrote me recently saying that her family called him the Silver Fox because he'd always find a way to pass her right at the finish line. Skiing was our winter pastime, which brought the family here. After driving back and forth on weekend days, and spending a few weekends at the Key Motel, and then many weekends at our cousin's farmhouse, the Elliots, he eventually built the chalet right up here on top of Beaver Valley. He convinced my mom that this is where they should live, at the top of the hill. She was not too keen on that at first, but they were able to retire with all their friends who were doing the same thing at the time. And although he traveled a lot with scouts when he was young, he didn't do any traveling when he was working. It was all about weekends and holidays, all his vacation time at the cottage or here at Beaver Valley. The only family trips we took that didn't go north, we all piled into the old country square station wagon at Easter weekend, leave on a Thursday night and just drive, it seemed like forever, all weekend and come back. He would do all the driving, and we I think our longest trips were to Atlanta and back, and then to Cape Cod and Boston and back. And it seemed like we were in the car more than we were actually sightseeing. So except for visits with the Kerrs, his friends down to Bermuda, he really didn't do much traveling until he retired. And then they were able to go with his wife and their friends, and then later with his best friend Liz and friends, and did a lot of traveling. And he even did a few big ski trips with some ski buddies from Beaver Valley. A few years after our mother passed away in 2003, he met Liz here at Beaver Valley, and they had a lot in common: skiing, lots of common friends, and they both loved to play bridge and travel. And they had a great relationship for the last 20 years. The last 4.5 years, a bit of a struggle to get together, and they would talk every day, every evening. They'd call each other and just catch up. Dad skied well into his 80s, and he loved living here in Beaver Valley, where he had great friends and always encouraged us to come and visit and ski with our families each winter. And just this weekend, with our family all together again at the chalet, it was great to see all the grandkids and great-grandkids out tobogganing in front of the chalet. He loved that when we were all together and active. So it's nice to do that again. When we would call up, to check on the weather and say, "Hey, Dad, it's a good weekend for skiing." Excellent. Excellent condition, best ever. Was always his response. It was all pouring rain, or there was like sketchy snow, you could barely make it to the bottom of the hill. But we didn't know. We just come up and we have a blast. The cottage was no different. He got us all involved in things he loved: water skiing, swimming, canoeing, sailing. We all took sailing lessons at the local sailing club and got involved with racing. And he was never happier when we were, and our kids would compete in the annual Kettles Regatta, swimming and canoeing. He was a long time, he did the same regatta when he was a child with his siblings and friends, and he was a long time volunteer for the Kettles Regatta, and also acting as treasurer for the Kettles Church from 1976 to 2019. Dad loved card games. He was an excellent bridge player. He down a game of cribbage. After skiing, he would often be found sipping a rum and coke, playing cribbage with his neighbor, Don Castleman, and enjoying some conversation. Later in life, cribbage became something he played quite often in the evening. Every time we offered, he was keen for a game. And the last game I played with him, he almost stumped me. He certainly didn't lose his knack. And when he did beat me, for any of us, he would have a nightly call with Liz and Pat, and my sister Kathy and Sandy. Every night, they three ladies would call him. And he loved to be able to tell them, I just beat Brian. For such an act, he slowed down the last year, probably with his mobility. But he kept his mind sharp with news, sports, word searching, and puzzling. He was always had a puzzle on the go, and he liked everybody to help him puzzle. Grandkids, even the biggest stuff up there at the end, he would love to get in there and help him puzzle. He would refuse to do the same puzzle twice. He would sign the puzzle, and we put it away, and bring it out later. He said, "No, I've done that one." He said, "You did that 2 years ago." He said, "No, I'm not doing it." So we eventually just keep getting more and more puzzles, and you can see we have this huge puzzle table, that's not even half of what's in his office. And we encourage everybody to take the puzzle home with him. He signed them all and dated them, but he did. So, in conclusion, left us an incredible legacy. Children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. Yeah.
Thank you, Brian. Brian gave me the highlight reel of my dad's life. I'm going to try and touch on a few of his passions and adventures and a few stories. Dad came by his keen passion for outdoor and sports and volunteerism and a lot of associations from his father, Ed, who was very outdoors oriented and involved in scouting. And my dad followed suit and was very avid with scouting and traveling to around the world to these Scout World Jamborees. And he traveled on his own across the ocean by ship at that time. A bicycle in England and bike all the way to Switzerland or Norway. He was a crazy biker, bicycle. One of the stories that my dad recounted was with all the bicycle trips that he would do, starting with the day that he finished high school, whatever grade. That very day, he was so excited to go to the cottage, he would actually bicycle from Toronto all the way to Muskoka. And he did this all through high school, camping with his little tent wherever he got tired along the way. One of the years that he biked up to Muskoka was the year that they were building the Highway 400 extension, and it was all gravel, and he biked in gears, so we'd have to walk up all the hills. So sometimes it would take him a couple of days, but he couldn't wait to get out of school and head north to the cottage. Cottaging was, a huge part of his life. His father, Ed, bought a cottage in the 30s, and the kids, his sister, Marion, who was very close to his other sister, Betty, and Al, they all spent summers at the Muskoka Cottage. And as Brian said, we're very involved with the local cottage association, which is called the Kettles Cottage Association. It's on Lake Muskoka between Bow and Port Carlin. And they grew up with a whole, cohort of other kids out there. Great summers. One of them is a close cousin, Bill Sloan, who is going to say a few words a little later. Dad was recounting how they got around in Muskoka. His father, Ed, bought their first outboard engine, a Viking 25 horsepower, for the cottage from the Eaton store in Toronto. The first thing they wanted to do was water ski. Ed fashioned a surfboard from a wooden shutter at the cottage, and they surfed behind the boat that summer. Might be the first ever wake surfing in the world. The next year, Ed bought some real water skis from the Eaton's catalog. All the kids water skied, but it was Doug and Marion who did it every chance they could. After they mastered jumping the weight on 2 skis and swallowing on 1 ski. they started playing around and mounting the bindings backwards so they could ride or ski switch, he told me. And today, for those that are skiing and riding snowboards on the hill, you ride switch, kind of riding backwards. So it's kind of funny to hear him talk about riding switch, 50 years ago. And of course, he encouraged his own kids and all of our grandkids to participate in water sports that he loved so much. And he was always the first to volunteer to drive the kids around and around the bay at our local cottage. The first to volunteer to take the grandkids out sailing, his other huge passion. His interest in sailing started with his brother Al, and around the age of 9, Dad told me that he and Al built a sail out of a bed sheet. They didn't tell their parents. Attached it to a rowboat. Fortunately, they were smart enough to keep the oars in the boat because it only sailed one way and they had to row home. Dad's interest in sailing transitioned, like Brian described, into racing albacore dinghies. And he was very active locally with the Kettle's Cottage Association, where they ran weekend races all through the summer. He also competed throughout Muskoka. It was quite an active dinghy albacore sailing movement back in those days. One of the favorite places he went to sail was in Bala Bay, where they had a famous annual cup called the Callahan Cup. And he won it several years in a row to the point where they asked him not to come back. With the local junior sailing club program, helping run that program. He was a many-time Commodore or President Club, as well as the National Canadian Albacore Association. And this was kind of the start of his very active volunteerism. He was active with the Rotary Club. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's like a Lions Club. It does a lot of fundraising. So he was active, like his father was, in the Nipiko, which later became the Etobicoke Rotary Club. He was president of that Rotary Club, and like his father was before him, and received a couple awards for outstanding community service during his time with that sailing, with that Rotary Club. With his activity in sailing, it kind of hang on. To my brother Brian and I, we became active sailers. Dad was always very progressive, and so when windsurfing hit the scene, Brian and I both got very active in windsurfing, and Dad actually took it up as well. On a ski hill, he was very open to whatever was new, whatever the kids were having fun with. And fun was kind of the central, mandate with my dad. He was all about everybody having fun on the ski hill. As some of the Beaver Valley folks here would remember, freestyle or hot dog skiing, showing up on the skiing, and my dad was very encouraging and open to anything new on the snow. Sliding down the hill, it didn't really matter as long as everybody was having fun, and that applied to when snowboarding showed up on the skiing as well. And as kids, we were building jumps in the front yard of our chalet, which is just 2 chalets over from the chairlift over here. And then my kids and Brian's kids and a lot of other kids at the club would come over and build jumps, and look out the wind shovel, nothing though. We probably had one of the terrain parks in the world on this front lawn with nickels and boxes and couches and whatever we could find. But he was out there encouraging everybody to participate. Dad's skiing passion started with his father Ed, who was a high park in Toronto where they hiked the hill. And later on at some golf course north of Richmond Hill, which had a rope tow run by the Toronto Ski Club. And that started Dad on his lifelong journey as a passionate skier. He would borrow his dad's car to drive north to Summit, Dagmar, Collingwood with friends like Bill Sloan, Glenn Brossett, Stan Hoba, and often his little sister Marion along for the ride. Dad skied here at Beaver Valley before it became a private club. It was actually a public hill years before it transformed into a private club. So it was already a favorite spot for him. And back then, you could only access this club from the bottom of the hill. It had a double rope tow, so you take a rope tow halfway up the hill, and then switch to a second rope tow to travel the rest of the way up. I think Beaver Valley built it as the world's longest rope tow at the time in the world. Dad joined Beaver Valley in 1968, the year after it was formed. His friend from Muskoka, John Carey, who was a charter member of Beaver, convinced Dad to join. He almost joined Devil's Plain, he said, because our next door neighbor in Mississauga, where we grew up, was a member there. But John Carey fortunately won my dad over, and it was Beaver Valley. And he ended up purchasing a chalet lot next to John Carey a few years after joining. They both, my mom and my dad, really loved the ski-in and ski-out experience on the hill. Brian said while the chalet was being built in the early years, fortunately for our family, his sister Marion and John Elliott and the Elliott family, or clan, had a farm just around the corner from here, so we spent a lot of fun years with the Elliott family at their farm. And of course now a number of the Elliott family are also on Windy Lane. And so the kind of Jarrett Elliott family tradition continues with kids and grandkids. So it's pretty fun to see that family connection continue. I think we had a bunch of kids talking at the chalet this weekend. Elliott grandkids or great-grandkids with Dad's great-grandkids, so it's kind of cool to see that continue. Dad was very at Beaver Valley as well, served on the board of directors as treasurer for 4 years. And then at one point, thanks to Newt Domberg, who's here, and Jack Marley, they were both active with the Ontario Ski Resort Association, which was in need of a new treasurer. So they kidnapped my dad and convinced him to join what was called OSRA, the Ontario Ski Resort Association, as its treasurer for 4 years. And that was a fun time because he got to rub shoulders with the who's who of the Ontario ski resort industry, including Gordon Canny, who was one of the legendary developers of Blue Mountain. He married Joseph Weider's daughter and was kind of the architect of Blue Mountain's massive growth through the 70s and 80s. My dad often tell me that he knew Canning quite well. Thought he was actually, kind of bullshitting me that he could this big guy in the industry. But turns out, and Newt Domberg at Christmas verified to me that that actually did know quite well Gord Canning. One of the perks of Dad's tenure with the Ski Resort Association was he got a complimentary pass where he could ski at the resort in Ontario for free. But he always preferred to ski here at Beaver Valley over all the resorts because it was the friendliest resort and club in his opinion. So it was kind of cool to hear that. I mentioned that some of Dad's travel by his scouting. Last trips that he took in scouting, he traveled back across the Atlantic, I think that's what kind of ship, Britannia, and it was the 18th last voyage he took and his buddies because it was the last trip. The memorabilia paraphernalia they put on the and later when they were in Toronto was an extra cash. As Brian mentioned, Dad was active in golf and tennis in addition to sailing. He was a golfer. He loved it. He joined the Mississauga Golf and Country Club, where he and towards the end of his life, he was actually listed as the longest standing member of the Mississauga Golf and Country Club, which is kind of cool. One of his third passions was football, not playing it, but going to Toronto Argonaut football games. And he did that with his buddies Bill Dedrick, who's here today, Jim Kerr, whose wife here today. Jim's no longer with us. Dave Brown, Jim, Roy Spence, and Stan Hoba all had season tickets that they purchased back in high school. They went to games religiously over the years. That were really contagious. Here at Beaver, he was usually the first on the hill and the last off the hill. And a few years ago, we had a plaque for the Jarrett name on the Avalanche chairlift, which is one of his favorite hills. And the description we came up with Dad was first ride and last call, which very aptly describes his kind of mandate for his life. I think for my dad, what really stood out was he was always about having fun, especially on the water and on the slopes. But really, everything he did, it was always about having fun and sharing that passion and that fun with family and friends. Family and friends were very, very important to my dad. He always had a very welcoming, infectious smile that I've heard since his passing about how many people really remember that smile that he had. He was very warm, welcoming smile, but always with a little bit of a mischievous twinkle in his eyes. So that's probably the memory that I'll cherish the most, remembering, that smile and how his friendship and how friendly he was to everybody he met. So I'm going to pass the mic, I think, to, who's next on the list, Brian? Bill Dedrick. Bill, come on. Thank you, Lord. So Bill Dedrick is, my dad and Bill met in kindergarten and have been lifelong friends ever since. So it's amazing to have Bill here, and they stayed in touch all of these years as very, very close friends. Bill, you want to sit down while you're talking, or you're okay?
It's a real, okay, can you hear me? It's a real privilege to be here and to talk about Doug. I first met Doug at kindergarten, if you can believe it, in Mimico, of course. And we were good friends all the way through public school and high school. And he always got off early in June when I had to stay and write exams. He was that smart. He worked hard during the school year, so we didn't have to write exams during June. Unfortunately, I didn't have that talent. But we got through high school together, and a big thing was he asked me to join the Scouts in Mimico. And I said, oh, I don't know. Those guys all run around in short pants, And we had some pretty tough guys in Mimico. And when we were heading out to the Scout troop meetings, you kind of avoided those guys because you never know what they were up to. Anyway, we had a lot of fun in Scouts and did a lot of camping. In fact, Doug went to a couple, I think 2 world jamborees, one in Sweden, and I forget where the other one was, but he was a true scouter, and whenever he could get away and meet people, and he was just in his element to be with people. Of course, I was lucky in the summer times. Quite often he invited me up for a week at the cottage, and it was always a lot of fun, water skiing and sailing. He loved to sail, and when the wind was blowing, I could crew for him. But when there wasn't much wind, he got Eileen to do the crew. She was a little lighter. Anyway, he loved to sail and canoe. We did a lot of canoeing and out on arcs with the guys from the Scouts, and most of the fellows were from the Scouts. And one interesting story I have about that, we canoed up to Cedar Lake, and a little town up there, Kios. And over the time we were there, they had a log jam came in to next to where we were camping. So, being kind of foolish, I started to go out and run the logs until I fell in. And I couldn't get back up. You go to grab a log and it starts rolling over and over. And I was getting a little panicky. So who came out was Doug. He was very nimble on his feet. and he came out and helped me out of the turmoil and predicament that I had. So that was a real friend. And throughout the years, he was a worker, as a chartered accountancy work, and we had a nice group of in Minnesota where we get together for a party maybe on Friday night, and he invited us to a party at his house, and we walk in, and there's a little girl in there, and it happened to be my wife Catherine's cousin, Eileen, and we were just blown away. And I guess Eileen worked in the Jarrett's chartered accountancy business, and lo and behold, they ended up getting married, four wonderful children, and we've enjoyed their company over the years. Doug always invited our group, most of them were fellows from the Scout troop. Glenn Gossett, I think some of you people know Glenn, and Stan Holba, who skied here at Beaver Valley, and Doug looked apart. Loved to have people around. So I guess you know anybody that knows him knows he likes to party. What else can I say there? We used to camp and scouts. We went to the World Jamboree in Sweden as a representative. And during high school, he was the rep, I think it was Eaton's or Simpson's in Toronto. They had a junior program or a school program. Probably a lot of you people joined it. They used to have a representative from each high school. And Doug was chosen to represent Nemaco High School on the student council type they had at the Eaton store. I think it was the Eaton store. And the teachers liked Doug. He was a great student and very polite, very polite guy. I enjoyed his company. We did a lot of things together. In fact, he brought me up here to the ski hill several times, and I wasn't a skier. I had done a little bit of skiing at Humber Bay. We used to get the streetcar and go down to the Humber Bay golf course and ski there. The lawns were short, but climbing up the hills with herringbone, I just couldn't get the idea of skiing. I mean, it took me two seconds to get down the hill and 10 minutes to get back up. So, but anyway, we did have a lot of fun up here skiing, and over the years. What else was there? Oh, meeting Eileen. Did I go to say that, Catherine? My wife Catherine over there with her skirt. We were friends with the Gossets and the Holbas through our skirting, and we've all had a lot of fun playing bridge and doing things like that. But he was a wonderful man. Yeah. I don't mind saying this, but when my parents died at a fairly young age, Doug came over to the visitation every enjoy the rest of the day. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Uncle Bill. All right, another Uncle Bill, Bill Sloan.
I can't see this stuff, but okay. I always read. I thought I'd talk a little bit about Doug as a friend. You all heard about his exploits. He was a great skier and sailor. But he was a one-of-a-kind friend. And I first met Doug about 92 years ago in Liverpool. And at that time, excuse me, the Jarrett conclave, the heart of the Jarrett clan, the Jarrett clan, was in Liverpool. And Grandma Jarrett lived on the lake shore. Uncle Ed and his family, including Doug and Ben and Eddie Moore, lived a couple blocks away, and my family, my mom and dad, my sister and I, lived just around the corner. And there was 4 little kids. Doug was the oldest, and we're all within a couple of years, and then Mary Lou, and then Min, and then I was the youngest. We played together a lot. Great memories. But, one day it got a little boring for me. So, Doug gave me a pair of scissors for some reason, and so I cut all Uncle Ed's tools out. And he was a little annoying. And also, I guess I had also snipped off some of Marion's hair. And I was in trouble. I was busted. My parents were mortified. Uncle Ed was. That wasn't like anyway. He was. But Doug stood by me. He was there for me, and he got the others in line, and they were supportive in spite of everything that happened. And shortly after that, we moved to North Toronto. I'm not sure there's a connection there. We got out of Pinnacle to North Toronto, but we stayed in touch. The Jarrett plan never lets you stay out of touch, and so my Uncle Ed bought an establishment in Muskoka and settled in Muskoka. A few years later, we moved to Muskoka. Grandma Jarrett bought a place, and we went up to look after Grandma in the summer, and another aunt and uncle looked after Grandma in the winter. And so we were really fortunate that we grew up in Muskoka. My kids were lucky. And you've heard about Doug's exploits as a founding member of the Kettles. His dad was a founding member, and Doug and his men and family kept it going with their neighbors. Doug was, as you've heard, a fantastic sailor. And really, I think he made many, many friends. And then in the wintertime, of course, they moved to Beaver Valley, to the ski hills, and once again, many friends. He was a great skier. And lo and behold, a few years years later, when we came back from Ottawa, we joined the Valley Ski Club. So I'm starting to think that I'm following Doug around, which isn't so bad. But I think the main thing that has always struck me about Doug is he was a great friend to have. He had friends from, as you know, from Bill Bedrick, kindergarten, public school, high school, Rotary, all the organizations he was involved in, he had a friend. And they stuck together. He was the best friend you could have. If you got in trouble, if you wanted some help, call Doug. And his friends were the same. They backed Doug up just like he backed them up. And that's really the thing that I think made Doug a little bit unique. He never lost track of these old friends. And Doug, we miss you, and may the wind be always at your back.
Thank you, Doug. I'll order a little bit on the speakers. I'm going to ask my Caitlin. Well, I only because Caitlin's got a baby, she's got to take care of. Sorry, Mom. And Sam, I'm going to come up and talk about your grandfather.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for being here to celebrate the incredible life our grandpa has lived. For those of you who may not know us, I'm Caitlin. And I'm Sam. And we are the granddaughters of Doug Jarrett. Our grandpa has been very influential in our lives and the lives of all of his grandkids. He has taught us the importance of family, hard work, and play. He created family hubs at his favorite places, Muskoka and Beaver Valley, where all of his kids, his grandkids, as well as his sister's kids and grandkids would all come together. We've had the privilege to grow up coming to these places and spending quality time with our extended family. Grandpa loved to see us getting outside. When skiing and snowboarding at Beaver Valley, he was so passionate about us getting out on the hill that he would often tell us that we should already be outside and to get moving. Grandpa, as mentioned before, at Beaver Valley, the weather and ski conditions were always perfect and there was no reason for his grandkids to be inside when they could be out on the hill. He wasn't just all talk either. Up until his 80s, he would be right out there with us. He could no join us, he still kept up to date on the happenings at the club, including his favorite of when the snow guns out front of Chalet were going, and made sure to still always ask us if we had been out on the hill. He passed on his love of the slopes with his kids and grandkids, but also the activities he loved from Muskoka. The Kennels Regatta was always a big deal in our family, and just as Grandpa and his kids had participated in it each year, us and our cousins also carried on that tradition. Grandpa always knew which events each of his grandkids would be participating in, and he would be following along on his program, watching from his Malibu with his binoculars. He would share in our excitement when we brought back trophies and plaques to proudly display in the cottage, but ultimately he was just so happy that we were participating. Another Kettles activity that Grandpa passed on to his kids and then his grandkids was sailing. Many of his grandkids took part in the sailing program there, and some, myself included, went on to teach the sailing program. Even if we didn't join the sailing program at Kettles, Grandpa loved to take us out in his sailboats back at the cottage, or to see us take out a sailboat and carry on. One of the other things that my cousins and I grew up loving to do at the cottage was tubing. Most of the time, my dad, Brian, or our Aunt Sandy would be the ones to take us tubing, but every so often, us kids were desperate enough to tube when the only available adult to drive was Grandpa. Grandpa was an experienced tubing driver, and his goal was to knock us off the tube, which he was very good at. There was one ride in particular that I will never forget. Grandpa was driving, I was the spotter, and Alex and Kevin were on the tube. After stopping to let Alex and Kevin get back on the tube after falling off, there was some slack in the rope. Naturally, you would drive slowly forward to let the slack tighten, but not Grandpa. He chose this as his opportunity for a little whip and sent Kevin and Alex flying off the tube again. This happened another 2 times in a row, before Grandpa finally allowed the slack to be taken up before speeding up. Luckily for me, I just got to witness this from the boat. We will forever hold these fond memories with Grandpa close to our hearts. Grandpa also loved to challenge his mind and to share this love with his friends and family. As many people will know, this included a love for puzzles, which he would always encourage his grandkids to help with. When we were younger, this usually involved telling us we would get 5 cents for every piece we got in. But as we got older, this became a treasured time we got to spend with Grandpa, sharing in something he loved and receiving the occasional, well done, oh great one, and getting a piece in. I'm grateful we will always have this activity to remind us of him. We knew that Grandpa was proud of us. He not only liked to see us enjoying his favorite pastimes, but he was also proud to have us help out at the Church of the Kettles with handing out the church collection whenever we attended church with him. Afterwards, back at the cottage, we would get to help him count all of the collection money, which, looking back on it now, may have been his way of trying to get one of us to become an accountant. Family and shared family experiences made him important until the end of his life, which I got to see firsthand, having had the opportunity to live with Grandpa at Beaver Valley for most of the past few years. Grandpa was always interested to know what each of his grandkids and great-grandkids were up to, and enjoyed getting to see photos of us shared with him by his kids. He found much joy in seeing us when we visited him, especially when he got to hear that we had been out skiing or snowboarding when we were at the chalet with him, or we had been doing any water activities when we visited him at the cottage. We are grateful that Grandpa was so present in our lives and that he had the opportunity to see how much all of his grandkids have developed their own passions for the same activities that he loved, and also finding other passions as well. We are grateful for the time that we had with Grandpa, and we will miss him, but we will always have him with us when we continue to enjoy the places and activities that he shared with us. Thank you, Grandpa, for establishing these special places for our family to gather and to grow. Thank you for always pushing us to get outside and participate in activities. Thank you for the wonderful life you lived. We will forever be proud to say that Doug Jarrett is our grandpa.
Okay, Bob, your time. This is Bob Smart, a long-time friend and Beaver Valley neighbor and ski buddy. And very relaxed. Hello?
Maybe I reached my resting point. All right, I just talk all the time to notice the kind of eye. They always had another side to them that you didn't approve them. And as I said, I heard more about all the other things that we did besides them along Green Lane. And Sandy has asked me to talk about two elements One is our trip to Cortina, which was back in October 5, and consistent of another guy that was recognized, working out there, Ron McGee, who's also on now. Over he and I did a lot of travel on season, sailing out from Mexico and stuff like that. And we decided we were going to stay in Cortina. Join it. And Doug was on the top of the list. So we called him and talked to the guy. And we got up, and we're still having trouble. All right, now you're hearing me. Anyway, we came to Young Sally, and of course, the door was open. Nobody else was learning that, but there was one of them trips along the road. And Father was very quickly, and gave me happy to join us in Cortina. When we needed a hall, that's why we chatted about who it might be. And it was comparison, because he also was a winning guy in life with that. So before this went off through Cortina, we had a lot of good advice. I had some sources, and I have unique advice. If you want to see there, it's in Italy. There's a very blank. Papa at the road says, listen for a scene through that, which they are the lines. And also, here I am, okay. So I'll hold it back. I don't want to happen. Anyway, I have a photograph of my foot. I'll take one here. I have holding some hat that they would need to see some at 4. The instructors will recognize one straight down the hill, so that Pete and Bud and we'll clean up with one. I wanted to line up with one other story from early days when we were Lane was right here, and I'm talking 69 feet man with the first salary of the permit. And then 5 or 6 went in on Sunday, the 30 on very family. We can't be here today, I understand. And then we had Doug, we had Nick McCray, who was a lawyer. And then we had, on the other side of the door line, a builder named Ron Ellis. And it had Pop Smith, I should say. And I have 2 little stories now, switching from Cortina to Ron Smith. I was master for a year, and Hurricane Hazel came along in October, and my family lived in York Mills on the lawn. And I got a call from my father saying that we find from home right now in the basement of the school area. And so I eventually got from the old 5, and I took up a ride to Station Woodstock. This is 1954, the phone. And I had a further been hitchhiking. There was a way of leaving one stop and stuff like that, which I picked up. And who was it? And it's a guy named Ron Smith. And I'm reading Alice Hall. This was 1954. We're coming into Toronto, and we're going down all in Goodrich. All the bridges were up from Goodrich down. And who do I find as my next door neighbor? 20 years later, when I moved in, on the lane, and Ron Smith is my next door neighbor. They bought an Alice home, and the Alice came from his running great name. And there are still Alice's home, and the Smith family. So that was one album. And I was with them very high with the year, and I ran an education program. And I had a major source for doing work and dealing with the school system. And it happened that one of the things that when a guy came out of North Main, in Dallas, and he broke everything up the school that had before Kevin for $30 billion, and $30 billion now, and not even in the fall Kevin. But he also broke up Ontario Home. I had a contractor who was reporting the money, and I had him retired, and he was liable for the fact. And the lawyer said, "Boy, we don't want to talk to you anymore, no long-term contract." That's what I took with the contract to find him the court. And it was a big part of the material, probably one of the money. And on the open day, the Supreme Court judge came, all other, road works, and he sat down. And the judge said, "And before we start, I'd like to know whether Robert Smart, who is the chief witness for the plaintiff, unstated legal value." It was at the grave, the Supreme Court of Ontario, my next door neighbor, and so I had Mark Smith, who ran down the office, and a Supreme Court neighbor on the other side, on that heavily on Illinois Village Lane. And incidentally, my lawyers and the other Thursday came before Mr. Justice the Frame and said, "We're withdrawing our refusal with the crime of the North Main, and they can never have one to set the name on it." I brought it before the Lane, and I'm happy to say that my daughter and her family and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren are all there.
We're just wrapping up. I got two messages to report from people who couldn't make it. One's from an old friend of my dad's, Roger Funnel. Thank you. Roger Funnel and his family sends sincere condolences to you, Brian. This is real to Steve. Steve, Brian, Patty's Andy and family. Lots of sadness. Goodbye to your beloved father. I had the pleasure of knowing your father over a period of 20 plus years as we enjoyed together the opportunity of acquaintance with members of the Rotary Club of Etobicoke, formerly the Rotary Club of Nimico. Both Doug and I were, like both of our fathers, served on the Rotary Board of Directors and as presidents during the following years. Ed Jarrett, 1942-43, Ron Funnel, 62-63, Doug Jarrett, 70-71, and Roger Funnel, 76. Doug was always a devoted Rotarian, highly liked and respected, always active in a wide spectrum of club projects and in fundraising events. We hold fond memories of Doug and your dear mother Eileen as skiers at Rotary Ski Days at Wrigley and at wonderful annual ski around weeks held at private clubs in Collingwood area. Doug will always be remembered for his cheerfulness and positivity. Who could ever forget his memorable smile? His life has been long and productive, leaving a legacy to all of you to uphold. We cherish all the good memories of your beloved father and grandfather and his life well lived. That's from Ron Funnel. And then I have a note from our cousin in the States, Allison Peters. This is my mom's sister's daughter. My Uncle Doug. My fondest memories of Uncle Doug centered around the cottage and family weddings. At the cottage, I just knew that he insisted on taking this awkward kid out on the lake to try and teach me how to water ski. He tirelessly dragged me around the bay, stopping time and again to hand me the rope and say, "Let's try one more time, Allison." And once more it's happened until I finally succeeded. He was never discouraging, always believed the best about me. Then at family weddings, Uncle Doug would stride across the dance floor. I do my best to hide, but to no avail. He'd grab my hand. I protest, telling him that I couldn't dance. He'd say, "Just follow my lead." He always made it fun and felt so special dancing with my Uncle Doug. What do I remember most about this wonderful man? His kindness, warmth, generosity, inclusion, and steadfastness. I will always miss you, my Uncle Doug. Much love to all, Allison. Okay. Again, thank you very much for the company. It was great to share all the memories with everybody. And get you on. Yeah, don't forget.